Over the last few years, the old British Aerospace Airfield at Woodford in Cheshire has all but disappeared. But there is still the odd relic hanging around which give a glimpse of the site's former glory. On the western edge of the airfield, near the threshold to what was runway 07, you can still find what's left of the Localizer and ILS building. This structure is actually part of a Normark NM 3511B 12-element single frequency localizer, and this formed part of the whole ILS or instrument landing system on the airfield. In simple terms, it sends out a radio signal that provides directional information for approaching aircraft that have tuned their receiver to the ILS frequency for that particular airfield. The main uses are that it guides the pilot during the approach and landing and is extremely helpful when visibility is limited, which was often the case in and around Woodford. It provides the aircraft with a precision final approach and guides it onto the touchdown point. The system consists of both ground and airborne equipment working together. The three pieces on the ground are the localizer to provide horizontal guidance, and the ground glide path antenna to provide vertical guidance, and also marker beacons at set distances from the runway, but these have all been removed. The glide path array can be seen here around 5,000 feet away from the localizer near the runway 25 threshold. The ground localizer transmits a horizontal signal to guide the aircraft onto the centre line, and the glide path antenna transmits a signal in the vertical direction to guide the aircraft to the touchdown point. The antennas in the aircraft receive these signals and sends the information to the ILS indicator in the cockpit. This information is given to the pilot in the form of flight directors, which, by keeping both points centred, the pilot can guide the aircraft down to the end of the runway, centrally aligned and aiming for the touchdown point. So let's go back to the localizer at Woodford. This is a 12-element horizontal array located near runway 07. It operated between 108 and 111.975 MHz VHF and transmitted two signals which overlap the centre line. The differences in modulation, the left having a 90 Hz modulation and the right having 150 Hz modulation, gives the indication to move the aircraft to the left or to the right whilst on the approach. Now, the original ILS building still exists next to the localizer, but has unfortunately been vandalised. The site is still somewhat restricted in terms of access, and the building is surrounded by vegetation 5 feet deep, so I used the drone to show you a rare glimpse inside. As you can see, it's in poor shape with the transmitter cabinets ripped out and damaged. There is, however, still some manuals and documentation on the workbenches and a power supply on the wall, but it's safe to say that it'll likely be demolished very soon as the airfield disappears under the new housing development. So now let's look in more detail at the glide path array on the other end of the airfield. This system operated in the UHF band between 329.15 and 335 MHz. This array produces two signals in the vertical direction which have different modulations just like the localizer. The differences in modulation, the top having a 90 Hz modulation and the bottom having 150 Hz modulation, gives the indication to move the aircraft either up or down whilst on the approach. Like the localizer array, this is one of the very few clues left on the former airfield that indicates its historic use. The majority of the buildings and infrastructure have all been demolished in very recent months, and it's only a matter of time before the old ILS system at Woodford disappears as well. Now, I did do a video last year documenting the former radio systems on the airfield, including these antennas, before it was all ripped down, so I'll link that video at the end of this one.